Welcome back to beautiful Las Vegas and the final round coverage of my games from the 2014 Millionaire Chess Tournament. I was sitting at a score of 2.5 out of 6, not looking too good at all, and for any chance to get any money at all, I had to win this game. There was no doubt about it. Oddly, a teammate of mine, Ed Yetman, who drove up to Las Vegas with me, and I've known Ed for many, many years, figured we might be paired against each other. And that's as it turned out. When I looked at the pairings on my phone app, I saw that indeed I was going to be paired with Ed. So we drove all the way from Tucson so we could play each other. That being said, he knew that I was working on a particular line of the French defense, and I knew that he played the classical line. He liked to play it. But I have a line in the Steinitz that I want to play against him. So I prepared a new move in the Steinitz in case we did get paired against each other. And as we'll see, he pulled a switch on me. Now, it's odd that Ed and I have been paired against each other in this last round here, as we're really good friends. That also happened in the open section for the final round for the championship playoff, where Wesley So was paired against Ray Robson. As we see here, the 6 final players to make the playoffs will be done after our game is done, and then they'll come back and they'll play on Millionaire Monday. And Wesley So indeed went on to win that match against Ray Robson to take home a $100,000 purse for first place in the open section. All right. Well, let's get on to the game here and see what happens. Before we do, I just want to give you a queen sack alert. This game does have a queen sack in it, so it should be entertaining. If not of high quality, it'll certainly have high entertainment value. Enjoy. So I have the white pieces, and Ed Yetman, my good friend, longtime friend, has black pieces. All right, now Ed is a very staunch and well-versed French player, and I was hoping he would play knight f6 here. He said he didn't want to go down that line because he felt that it would be a long, drawn-out game. Well, I had a couple surprises for him, depending on if he played the queen b6 or a6 variation of the Steinitz variation of this. But we didn't go that road. We went to the winnower. Now, the tables were turned because I had prepared something for him, and now he's going into this line, takes away my preparation. So my question to him is, did you prepare something for me? Well, I didn't want to find out, so I deviated what I normally do with queen g4 here. It's a kind of rare move, but it is seen at decent levels, 2300 and up level. Now knight f6, and this is not really a particularly testing line for black. Here, he should take with the knight on e4. And after this is a comfortable game for both players. Probably the safest for black to choose this way. He took with the pawn, which is maybe trying to get back into the Nimzovich variation of the winnower. After a3, he could do so with bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and we've just transposed into the winnower Nimzovich line. Now, in an interesting game between Ribbon Calabria and Nunez Lucero from Barcelona 2010, 2 A players. Well, actually, white was an A player, black was a expert. Bishop a5 was played in that game. And now, black mishandled it. Actually, the higher rated player mishandled it. No, I'm sorry, the lower rated player mishandled it. And he played bishop d2. Actually, it's better to play knight ge2, and then if knight c6, bishop d2 now. This looks a bit better for white. You can always play knight to g3 and take on e4. In that game that I was mentioning, he played bishop d2, bishop b6, and now he played knight takes e4, which is getting impatient. Again, he should play knight g to e2. But in their game continuation, after knight takes e4, bishop takes d4, black is already getting the better of things. So the cautious way to play here is knight ge2, if this comes up on your board. But Ed played bishop f8, which is a novelty, and I don't think it's the best move. But, I can understand the reasoning behind it. Knight takes e4, knight to d5, queen to b3 is actually kind of a retarded move. Queen to d3 is the simplest and the best. Now I played queen to b3, and after queen to h4, which is also not the best, I played queen to d3. And so I looked at this and I go, okay, I wasted a tempo with this, but I'm still not that far behind in development. We're both about same on development. I'm going to be able to bring my knight out with tempo. Okay. Knight c6 was played. And now there was an interesting line that was found by the computer that I have here at home on a powerful computer. On the computer that I used at the tournament site, I briefly looked at this. Well, I'll explain more about that later, but I looked at this and it found the move bishop g5. Now, on my weaker computer, it was Fritz 11 running on a single core processor, and I don't remember the speed and all that. But it's saying that white is getting a winning advantage out of this, but it's actually rather tricky. The point is, after rook takes, you play knight f3, and you're going to pick up the exchange free and clear. Well, not so fast there, bucko. Black has knight to f4. Of course, if he plays queen h6, you just take, and white's winning. But here, knight f4, queen to e3, knight to d5, and where are you going to go? I guess you can't really go to b3 because you'll drop your knight on e4, so you got to stay in contact with it. So queen e2, and probably the best try for anything here instead of repeating positions is to take, and yeah, it's a complicated game. I'd rather have white, but you know, black does have some good chances here. White's up to exchange right now, but there is the threat of knight takes c2. I guess we can just castle and take care of that right away. Yeah, I'd like white. Okay, so it was just interesting that bishop g5 is shown as a clear win for white on one computer, whereas on this one it's saying it's not that big of a win. It's still a good move, though. But I played knight f3 because, as I mentioned before, I want to get caught up on development. Queen e7, now c4. Bishop e2 is also a good idea, but c4 is fine. Knight to b6. Actually, my monster computer here found bishop g7. I'm not sure if Ed looked at this too much. I did briefly look at this possibility, and I thought I'd play bishop to g5 here. If you take right away, there's a bit of a problem with this because he hits your knight now. Queen to b5, bishop f5. This is looking good for black, not white. And after bishop g7, I think bishop g5 is the best. And after f6, well, a couple roads to go down. I think bishop d2 is a nice, calm way to go. And after knight to b6, knight to g3. White's up a pawn, has a solid position, and I think white will be able to hold this just fine. White's absolutely clearly for choice here. Be that as it may, Ed did not play bishop g7. He played knight to b6. And now the computer likes to move bishop f4, but I like g3. And now in our post-mortem wrap-up of the game, Ed was a bit critical of this move g3, but I liked it. And it actually fits in with a lot of the Winower-Nimzowitsch lines. If you can get this in a lot of the Winower-Nimzowitsch lines, then white has achieved something because it's not normally a possible move. Bishop d7, bishop g2. Castle's long, and now bishop d2 is a bad move. Castling is the logical thing to do here, but I played bishop to d2, and now Ed returns the favor. Better for him would be to play f5, and then after, well, for example, if white just drops the knight back right now, it's not so great because of e5, and black has a tiny bit of pull here. He's definitely got compensation for the pawn. And after bishop g5, then f takes e4, bishop e7, e d3, bishop d8, king takes d8. And we got one of those crazy, crazy positions, and it's typical ones that Ed would like. He likes to sack the exchange. He's the crown prince of exchange sacks, let's put it that way. So I'm glad we didn't go down this road. Instead he played h6, which is giving me an extra move. So I played b4. And now he plays bishop to e8. This is an understandable and tempting move. He wants to get something going on the d file. And it looks like it works by the path we go down, but it really doesn't. It was better to go ahead and play e5 right away. This is the time to lash out in the center. And the best for white here turns out to be c5. And after knight d5, knight e5, knight e5, de5, the knight's hanging, so bishop to c6, and castling, and knight f4. This is a critical move here. Queen takes e5 just allows rook fe1, and say you bring her over to an aggressive square, then bishop f3. White's doing extremely well here. A winning advantage, no doubt. So, going down this line though, black has to see a very important move here. And I think that Ed probably looked at this position and decided it's not good enough for him. But I think he missed the move, knight to f4 here. And after this, I think white is going to be okay, but it's going to be one of those situations where black has some fight in the game. Now the best move here is queen takes d8. And after queen takes, bishop takes f4, white looks to be better here, owing to the pawn structures, and really not much more else than that. The pieces are fun to play with versus the queen, but you can't say that that gives white a sizable advantage from the piece play alone. But the pawns, that's a different matter. Pawns kind of tend to tip things in white's direction. In the game, though, as I mentioned, Ed played bishop to e8. It's a logical reply, and it's one that I saw coming, and actually what's coming up here is what I saw from this position. I castled. Now b5, technically speaking, is the better move, but this is my fault because I saw something really nice that's coming up, which is we'll get into in a moment. But let's look at b5, and we'll see why. Subjectively, this is the way to go. And I missed this concept entirely because I got carried away with what you're going to see. And the point here is if knight takes d4, which looks like the best move, you don't take right away. You play bishop to b4, hitting the queen. This nice little Zwischenzug wins the game for white on the spot. If knight to f5, hitting the queen with the rook on d8, simply queen to c2. The bishop's hitting the queen on e7, which is defending the bishop on f8. So the bishop on f8 is lost. And if knight takes b5, it's the same thing. Queen moves out of the way, the bishop on f8 is lost. He could play knight to d6, and then we play c5, forking the two knights on b6 and d6. So yeah, b5 was technically the winning move. Shame on me for not spotting it, but I think you'll understand why I passed it by when we get to what we get to. Alright, so knight takes d4 was played, and this is not really a good move. Bishop to g7 is the best idea, and then white can defend with this. f5, knight to c5, and I think white has a winning advantage here. Just a matter of time. But that was black's best. He plays knight takes d4, knight takes d4, e5, this is the whole idea. Knight on d4 is pinned, knight to c5, and rook takes d4. Okay, here I chewed up some time thinking whether or not I can sack for the rook on d4 right here and now. I decided against it, wisely so. One of the few wise choices I made in this tournament. And I played queen f5, which is not, technically speaking, the best move. Let's go back. Again, if we get to the technical issues of how to win this game, bishop takes b7 is the way to go. Because after king goes to b8, we can play queen f3. And now we have a threat of knight to a6 with mate. So knight takes c4 allows the rook on g6 to cover a6. So there's no mate there. Bishop c3 hitting the rook. And he can try this move, which forces minor's exchange, but now rook ad1. This is simply a dominating position for white. Yeah, enough said. It's totally equal on material, but the position is so dominating, white's got a win game. But I played queen f5 check with the idea that if he went to b8, I would now play bishop to c3. Now the computer doesn't like this move. It says bishop e3 is better, and after rook takes c4, knight takes b7, white's got a winning advantage. It's still showing white's doing better in this line too. But the idea here is I'm hitting the rook on d4, right, chia. I'm still hitting the pawn on b7. I can take that one of two ways, whatever is going to be the most appealing to me. And if his rook moves, then this pawn is weak. And then he's got these two characters back here that aren't taking part in the game. Whereas now, if you look at mine, let's clear these off. This bishop's shooting at a tender spot. This knight's shooting at a tender spot and has the additional possibility of going to a6 in some lines. So that's that knight. And then this bishop is hitting this rook, which is tacitly hitting this pawn here too. Also, these two rooks can come into the game rather quickly to here and here, shooting up the center. So this is a very, very nice position for white. So the best move here is rook to g5. Ed did not play this. Maury Holland in our post-mortem found this move pretty quickly. But after queen to b1, all the pluses of white's position are still there. The position of the pieces are still dominating for white. You play rook takes c4, bishop d2, so he's hitting the rook on g5. Now, if he tries rook sack on c4, then we take here and overwhelming pressure on b7. He'll lose the knight as well. Or he's going to lose the second exchange at the very least. So if rook to g6, then we go knight takes b7. And this is still a winning advantage for white. And after the game, rook to f6 was played. And this is quite understandable. You're moving the rook, you're gaining a tempo. White's going to have to retreat. Now the computer here is giving queen h5 is best for white. Now after rook takes c4, bishop takes e5. And indeed, this looks to be winning for white. But I didn't want our game to just be some boring technical win. So I sacrificed my queen here. You know, if you're going to finish out a bad tournament, finish it with a flourish. It reminds me of the saying by Goethe. He said, "Thou must be either the anvil or the hammer," when talking about suffering or triumphing. So you need to hit it over the head is basically what I got. So from this position, I played queen takes e5. Boom. Out of the blue, a queen sacrifice. Now things get complicated, but both of us played this rather quickly from here on out. Now Ed correctly took. Now technically, with best play, this is just going to leave a small advantage for white. And that would happen after I play rook ae1. I didn't play this rook, and as we'll see, rook on f1 is a very important factor in this. But I didn't really look at it that far. Well, I did look at it pretty far. And I played rook fe1. And after queen f5, well, that's not the best move. And we'll come back to why rook ae1 was better in a moment. But let's look at the game continuation here. Rook fe1. The best move here is actually to give back the queen. So a queen sack followed by a queen sack. You should play rook takes f2. And now if rook takes e5, rook takes g2, king takes, bishop checks on c6, king to h3, rook takes c4, and now if rook c1, bishop g7, rook e3 is just dead level after a5, and rook ae1, rook takes c3, rook checks. Now if bishop takes, then this is very bad for black. That's mate. So he can't take. If he plays knight c8 right away, we can take the bishop. He pushes our knight away. We hit his rook. He takes a pawn. We take a pawn. It goes here. We go here. Bishop b7. Rook takes. Rook takes. Knight f6. And, well, best I can say is things are far from clear. The computer is favoring white slightly. But boy, this is anybody's game. However, there are quite a few open finals for the rooks, so I can see why the computer's saying what it's saying. But getting the kingside pawns up the board quickly, not going to be an easy chore. It would take a lot of ingenuity to do it. So that's what would happen if he were to play rook takes f2, giving back the queen. That was the way to go. Instead, he just sidestepped, which is the logical thing, and I thought he would go down this road. Just step aside, nothing to see here. Rook takes e8, knight c8, bishop takes d4. Bishop takes c5 is the best move here. Otherwise, that bishop's just going to fall. And now, it's best to take on c5 with a, say, pretty much a clear edge for white. But I played bishop takes f6 because this is what I had seen, and I thought this was winning. Now, the point here is if queen takes f6, now I can play rook f1, bishop e7, and bishop h3. And this is, to me, it looks like winning for white. So the best shot would be what Ed played in the game here, which is queen takes f2 check. And now it becomes pretty damn clear why rook a e1 was played. So since we're talking about that, let's go back to where rook a e1 should have been played. And queen takes f5, going down a similar line here. But it's not quite the same, because this rook on f1 makes all the difference in the world. And this variation is just an easy win for white. So whenever you have a choice of which rook to move to a square, think it over, because I really messed it up here, folks. So he played bishop takes c5, and I played bishop takes f6, and he played queen takes f2. Queen takes f6 right away. Doesn't get it done because rook f1. And like I said, this is just winning. And queen takes f2 check. King has to hide away. And now he plays queen f6, rook f1. I thought that because I could get this rook to this file with a tempo, it was the same as playing the rook a to e1, but it's not, as we saw. Now Ed could play bishop f2, and the win is kind of in doubt. Let's take a look at that. It's not what he played. But bishop f2, rook to e2, queen c3, rook e f2. Now he doesn't have time to go grabbing all the pawns. Say queen takes a3, rook takes pawn. This kind of thing is just, it's going to be murder for him. White's going to play bishop h3, winning a piece, and we'll have a left square on h2. And if queen takes c4 in this line, then rook f7, he makes luft. And, you know, white's clearly for choice here, but we're not exactly throwing the dirt on top of the black's coffin right at this point. Black's got some play, but white should be able to win this. In the game after rook f1, Ed makes a mistake and plays queen g6, and now I make another mistake and play bishop h3. I should play b takes c5. Let's look at that. And after a6, bishop e4, white looks to be winning here as well. But after queen g6, I played bishop h3, and he played f5, and after rook takes, he resigned because after king takes, bishop takes, queen f5, rook f5, that bishop's going to move, and he's going to lose that pawn on h6, an easy win for white. Okay. Now, we didn't look at this game too much, other than just about a minute of sitting there at the board whispering to one another about, you know, what we thought was going on. We even looked at it later on with Maury Holland and didn't really look at it in too much depth. Of course, Maury found rook to g5 in that position where Ed played rook to f6. So that was kudos for Maury for finding that, although white still has a winning game by just backing off this whole idea of the queen sack. That being said, we went out and ate, and we actually drove around the strip for a while, had a good time. We went to Mandalay Bay to check out the aquarium. I swear, if you like fish and sharks and prehistoric looking things, man, go to the Mandalay Bay Aquarium. It was 18 bucks per adult to go in there. It's a little more if you want to get a photograph, but it's really fascinating, all the sea creatures they got in there. It's like taking a step back in time. All right, anyhow. All we did was really just a cursory glance at this, and then I get back home. You know, we're going to head home the next day. So I get back to my hotel, and I go to sleep. And then around 2:15 in the morning, I wake up in a cold, cold sweat. I mean, it was just drenching. And this was the position that I had in my mind. And I couldn't believe it. I had my beautiful queen sacrifice going on. The black has a defense. Do you see it? It took me the chance to fall asleep and see it in a dream to have it come out. Simply, queen to c6 check, forks the king and the rook. And so bishop interposes, and he takes the rook and wins. Oh my God, what a nightmare of a tournament. I ended up with 3.5, which got me a share of a $1,200 prize. Not much of a share. But I did get to meet some good people. I got to meet Kevin Ware and Larry Agee, very nice people. Arjit Singh, very nice guy. Other than meeting nice people and chatting with a few GMs and IMs that I've known from for a while, and they were busy with their games, so I didn't get to spend much time with them. And of course, they hang out in their own cliques. I hang around with my boys. So the trip was fun. I had a fun time there, but boy, did I play terribly. A lot of rust. I mean, it's like my 10th game in just 2.5 years, something like that. So I'm looking to get back into chess, and I hope I can play better than this. Well, that's it for my coverage of the 2014 Millionaire Chess Tournament. I want to give special thanks to Maurice Ashley and Amy Lee for going out on a limb to make this possible. I know the first one's always tough. I hope you guys follow it up and get continuing success each year that you put it on. I would really like to see this tournament go on. Congratulations to Wesley So for being the overall champion of the first Millionaire Chess Tournament. Played some fine chess and got a little lucky too. And Ray Robson for following up in second place. He got 50,000. Wesley got 100,000. And special thanks to my road crew, Ed Yetman, Maury Holland, and Aaron Williams for joining me on the trip up there. It was a pleasure being with you gentlemen. And we even got to do some sightseeing. As you see here, we went to Mandalay Bay and got to check out the aquarium there, which was nice. A chance to be a tourist as well as play in a very great tournament. All right, folks, that's going to be it for this broadcast on the Millionaire Chess Tournament. I look forward to getting back to doing the Scorpions coverage. They got a couple more weeks left, so I can get caught up on some of those things, I hope, fairly soon. And until next time, good luck.